It has never been more important to trust your intuition, so welcome to the rise of the reluctant psychic. Hello, I'm your host Clare Cusack, and in today's episode we'll be exploring how to cultivate your intuition in ways that feel safe, balanced and grounded. Developing your intuitive abilities doesn't have to feel overwhelming, and grounding practices are key to creating a strong foundation. I will be sharing some tips with you on grounding, and we'll also dive into the mind-body connection and how that plays a crucial role in strengthening your intuition. We'll discuss psychic protection, why it's important, and how to manage doubt and skepticism along the way. We'll also be asking the question, how do you trust yourself and your process, especially when you're just opening up to your intuitive abilities? Whether you're new to this or further along on your journey, this episode is full of helpful insights to guide you. So let's dive straight in with Clare's quickfire round with the lovely Julie Rains, who'll be asking the all-important questions to get to the heart of the issue today.
So how would you say that, and how do you personally cultivate your intuition in a way that feels safe and grounded?
We have to have some parameters, and I think meditation is really important. Knowing who I am and what is mine is the key starting point of a daily meditation practice where you have stillness, creates a buffer between me and information and experiences that then come at me through the day. And I'm way better able to discern what's mine and what isn't, and way better able to navigate by having that.
With you, what would be a typical day with you starting? Do you physically meditate?
Yeah, my process is definitely start with meditation to reset, because who knows what's going on in our sleep state, in my sleep state, where I've been in my sleep, who knows? And I wake up and I've got to regroup and clear the slate so that I clear my field, to come back to a place of being neutral, use whichever meditation that I like to listen to. Sometimes I just like to listen to music, sometimes I just sit in meditative prayer. Whatever feels appropriate that day, then I clear the slate and I feel like I've got some spaciousness around me. And once I have that spaciousness, then I know that I'm in a position to choose how I respond rather than react to everything. It gives me a buffer.
Whereas mine, you see, I find the meditative state extremely difficult.
Right.
I can do it, but it isn't part of my natural process.
Yeah, and not everyone can. Yeah.
So for me, it would be going for my walks.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, my ritual is very much tied up with what I call my general well-being and housekeeping. So it's the shower, it's getting ready for the day, slapping on the face, doing all of those processes. So it doesn't have to be meditative, and you have to find your own process, would you say?
Yeah.
And is there a connection between the mind and the body in trusting the intuitive process?
Yeah, because I would say the body knows. So our mind could have a logical explanation or a logical reason for doing something, but our body will soon tell us if it's right for us. Our body is a great barometer, and the more we can get. So I think the idea, sometimes people think, oh, being psychic, you're all, kind of floating off and living on a mountain.
Yeah.
And actually,
in our caftans.
Yeah, caftans, yeah, flowing. But actually, the best, most useful and the most effective way of being psychic is the more grounded you are, the more rooted you are in the present moment, the more grounded you are in your body. Your body is your best tool because it will give you the knowing sensations. So you may begin to realize that a truth for you resonates as a feeling of ease, a feeling of you take a, oh yeah, that moment where you're puzzling something and the answer comes and you take a deep breath and you're like, oh yeah, that's it. And the whole body eases. So when we get an intuition, we're looking at a set of data or a circumstance or a problem we're trying to solve, and then a thought comes in that makes you relax. Oh, that's what I've been trying to work out. That's it. That's the truth. That's the truth for me. And my truth may be very different to your truth, may be very different to the listener's truth, but all we can know is our truth, and navigate from a place of knowing our truth and allowing our body to show us when something feels right for us.
So when opening up to the abilities, is there any kind of psychic protection people should know about?
The bubble is really key. And my way of doing the bubble is meditate and imagine that emptiness and spaciousness around me. That's how I visualize it. Some people can just think bubble and it's there.
Yeah.
Some people might use color. We don't need to overcomplicate it. It's just about exploring what feels right for you, setting the intention that this is my protection. Sometimes setting the intention, I only allow beings of higher consciousness to communicate with me, and knowing that you're not going to let anything else in. That knowing itself can be a protection. We'll explore this more in later episodes in more detail, but I think there are many ways in which people can make that choice to set that protection, and that making that conscious choice to do that from a real deep commitment to protection can be enough.
And again, I'm sure you've been asked this many, many times, but how can I be sure when I'm using my intuition that I'm being guided in the right direction? Say you're using your intuition and it's about something very important, a house purchase or a personal relationship or something. What processes do you use so you can identify?
It's about slowing things down, taking a breath, taking some space, and sometimes if everything's moving very quickly, we can think something is right, but it's about coming back into the body, what feels right. And if we're busy and we're on the run, it can be the last thing we want to do is be grounded. But it's very important to come back into that sense of being really physically in the body and taking a beat and taking a breath and feeling into what feels right. And over time, with practice, you get a much better felt sense of what feels right for you and the messages, how your body communicates that to you. And that's for the listener to explore. Everyone has a different relationship and communication with their body. And it's about practice. And then you begin to know that this feels right because I feel relaxed, I feel calm, or I get a tingling, or however it manifests, it can be different.
So can you be psychic without consciously knowing it, i.e. through your dreams or an emotional response, do you think?
Yes, I think a lot of people can be psychic and without realising it. And this is again coming back to the reluctant. They might be reluctant to put themselves in the bracket or the umbrella of psychic because they don't like the sound of the word, but they may very well be very intuitive. I remember my dad, who was very anti anything psychic, but he'd have dreams that his favourite food store was closed, and you get there and it was closed, and he'd have like random prophetic dreams that seemed like, why am I dreaming? What use is that to anyone? But he would definitely pick up on things and have knowings and have awareness about stuff. And he'd ring me and ask me a question about something I was doing at that moment that he couldn't possibly have known about. I was in a supermarket one time wondering about something to buy, and he was obsessed with supermarkets apparently. And so he would just tune in. Oh, are you in Sainsbury's? Oh, well, how do you know that? He would just have a way of knowing, but he would dismiss it as anything psychic.
Yeah.
And so he'd have the dreams, he'd have these knowings, he'd ring at times. He would just do that naturally, and I think a lot of people do that. They just don't. We don't have a lexicon understanding context to understand that as being quote fingers psychic. But a lot of people are way more intuitive than they give themselves credit. And like me, I mean, I felt like when I was younger, oh, cool, everyone can do this. I'd have conversations with people, and I'd know they'd be like stumbling over what to say, and I'd know the words, and so I'd say the words. Oh yeah, that's the word. I thought, well, doesn't everyone do that? Like, doesn't everyone have dreams? Doesn't everyone have things that happen and then realise that you've already seen them happening, and as they're unfolding, you know what's happening next because you've already seen it? Doesn't that happen to everyone? So yeah, on and on.
I do, and again, it's going back to it doesn't have to be epic, does it? I was house sharing many years ago, and the friend we got on really, really well, and I can remember being in the supermarket. It was the 80s. I was wearing a pillbox hat and shoulder pads. And in my head came pick up the toilet, Frisch it was called,
Right.
for the loo, and I wasn't on the list. Got back home and my friend just went, got the Frisch then? And we would just, it would be something as ridiculous as
Seemingly mundane.
pick up the butter.
Right, yeah, but it's fun because
It's fun.
it's a different way of using our mind, and it can be a lot of fun.
It can be. So how do you deal with skepticism or doubt, and how would you help someone who's beginning to start trusting their intuition, the psychic ability? How did you go about it?
Well, I think skepticism is really important. I don't think it's something that you leave behind when you come on this journey. I think you healthy skepticism is always welcome, and it's part of the discernment that I've been speaking about. So skepticism is wondering if something is true or not. So to really use skepticism to your advantage, we need to know what's true for you. So I need to know what's true for me, and then I can use my skepticism to see, does this feel true to me or not? And what feels, as I said earlier, what feels true to me may be different to what feels true to you. That's fine. All we can know is our own truth. And so skepticism as a truth barometer is really helpful, and that use of skepticism is important. Not that we should overuse it and wipe everything out. I think skepticism is something we can use as a filter. So we filter in things that feel true, we can allow in, things that don't, we can let go. And I think it's really important, and I think it really helps us stay real.
And embrace that intuitive side.
Yes.
A healthy dose of skepticism.
It helps us to embrace it in a way that is measured and manageable.
So what advice, leading on from that, would you give to someone who's just starting to notice their own intuitive abilities, but is still a little skeptical?
I think, skeptical is good, but don't allow the skepticism to derail the fun that is available to anyone starting out on this journey, because there is so much wealth of knowledge and warmth and useful data that we can use day to day if we allow it to flow. So I think skepticism can come with a judgment. I think we take judgment out, and we use skepticism as a truth barometer. So if we use it, switch it up to be a tool that is useful for us, instead of, because sometimes when you think skeptical, you think arms crossed, judge. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the truth barometer, so we know our own truth. We can allow things that feel true for us, and in doing so, we can filter in things that feel true that we might not necessarily have embraced before, but because we now know what truth feels like, we filter in things that feel true to us. We have new experiences.
Exactly. It's a bit like you were saying earlier on, wasn't it? You hear it a lot with skeptics. Oh, why don't you know what you're having for lunch? Then you're psychic.
Yeah.
Which
people can use skepticism in a really judgmental way, and it can derail someone who's starting out. So we can embrace skepticism as a truth barometer, but we don't have to justify ourselves to other people. If someone's judging us, and perhaps we're going on this journey, we've got a close family member or a friend who is judgment skeptical. Well, we don't have to discuss it with them. We don't have to justify it. We don't have to prove anything. We can just explore things for our own enjoyment.
You often use this term. What does it mean to trust the process when it comes to developing intuition or psychic ability?
I think people find trust the process. They just we want results now. No one wants a process.
Tell us what to do, Claire. I don't want to work.
I don't want to work. I want the end result. And I think we have so much of the way that we think is formed. Well, it's entirely formed by our early experiences. And I think so much of our resistance or reluctance to being psychic, or our resistance to intuition, is indoctrinated from a very young age, because we live in a society that tells us that this is the right way, this is the truth, this is what we should do, this is the news, this is your feed on social media, and which is, as we talked about, algorithms, and the news again is a construct. There's a reason why things appear in the news, and it's usually aligning with somebody or other's agenda. So it's really important that we take things with a pinch of salt, and we learn to navigate our environment. And you could go as far, everything these days is so curated. in society, that you could go as far as to say that we are living in the ultimate cult.
Yes.
And that by trusting our deep sense of what is true to us, we can navigate all the dross that we're fed and sift out the truth and sift out what feels true to us and navigate from a place of empowered awareness as a result of using our intuition. And that's what I mean by trusting the process. We see how using our intuition over time can develop into useful tools that we can use to navigate our life day to day. I think that's a great place to end today. Thank you, Judy, so much. And I look forward to seeing you again.
It was great fun.
Yeah, thank you. That's it for today's episode of The Rise of the Reluctant Psychic. If something resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Tag me on Instagram at Clare Cusack _the Life Healer, and let's keep the conversation going. Want to go deeper? Get exclusive content, bonus episodes, and guided meditations over on Patreon at patreon.com/Clare Cusack. And if you want to know what are the 5 signs that the universe is trying to wake you up, then head over to my website www.clarecusack.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate and review. It really helps more people find the show. Until next time, trust yourself, trust your path, and keep rising, one reluctant psychic at a time.